It's Christmas. Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining me today. I'm so happy to be able to have a fellow, European here with me, just talking about this. It's an important topic. It's close to my heart, talking about Christmas and, how it feels moving over here, without your family, with your family, and what it's like building a new system, community in Canada. So first of all, before we jump into it, tell the people a bit about yourself, a little background.
Hi guys, I'm Ashley. I'm from Glasgow in Scotland. I have a husband and two kids. One was born in Scotland, he's 5 now, and my daughter was born last year here in Ontario. And yeah, we moved to Canada. We just had our 4-year anniversary a few days ago. I moved here November 2019, which was a bit of a crazy time, obviously, because we'd kind of just trying to get settled, and then the world went a little bit crazy, and COVID happened and lockdown and all that jazz. So that was a strange time. But yeah, that's when we moved over. We've just not long bought our first house over here in Canada. So I guess we're staying.
So with regards to, deciding to move to Canada, like what was the motivation? Because I know that, for me, I've come across lots of people who don't have families and they just move on their own, similar to myself. But I do also come across a lot of families that move. Not many of them move as families from the UK that I've met anyway. So we'll talk a bit about that later. But what was your reason behind moving to Canada?
Well, I've got family here, so kind of going all the way back. My grand's brother and sister moved over here in like the 60s or early 70s, I think. So I spent my whole entire life always visiting here, and specifically I live in Burlington in Ontario, and specifically visiting Burlington. I think I spent my first birthday here actually. My mum brought me over, so I was always here. Like I came when I was 7, and then I came when I was 10, and I think 14, and so I always loved it. And I think I came over in 2011 and 2012, and then I met my now husband in 2013, and he is Scottish, but his story's a little bit different. He grew up in South Africa, so grew up in South Africa and then came back to Glasgow when he was like 19 or 20, and we'd kind of talked about where we saw ourselves like kind of ending up kind of thing, and he'd always said he didn't know whether he thought Glasgow was like the place that he would ultimately stay, and I'd said, well, why don't you come and check out Canada? I loved it. I kind of, just before I met him, actually, I was 30, and I kind of thought about doing the whole 1-year visa thing before you turn 30.
Yeah.
And ultimately I just chickened out because I didn't want to do it myself. But so then we came over on holiday in like 2015, and he loved it, and that's when we started the process. We came home, I think, and then we sat our IELTS test, which is the first thing that we did in the September. So that was the kind of start of the process, and I think we finally got approved. So I think we got approved like early 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. And we had to then land as permanent residents. You had to then kind of make the flight over just to like officially land as permanent residents. And I was like 16 weeks pregnant with Brody at the time.
Wow.
And then you've got a certain amount of time. Then obviously we came back to Scotland. You've got a certain amount of time to then like make the move. Yeah. And I'd always said that I wanted to spend Brody's first year in Scotland. Like I wanted to have like the support of like family and friends, and we stayed in Scotland, had Brody's first birthday there, and then moved when Brody was like 14 months old in November.
So obviously I share a lot about, relocation and how I think it's quite important. I think it's really important to be able to try somewhere different, different from home, different from what you're familiar with, because you just never know what's out there, and you never really know what, life will bring to you in those environments, right? But one thing I always get is a lot of people ask questions about families and what it's like moving with families, what it's like raising kids in a new, different environment. Obviously, Scotland has been where you spent most of your life. So just in the 4 years you've been here in Ontario, how have you found that, navigating Canada as a parent, as a, new mom to a child that you gave birth to, not in your original home country?
So Brodie was still a baby when we moved here, and then we moved here. We both basically started applying for jobs and said if one of us gets a job, we'll move. So my husband got a job before me. So when we first came here, I wasn't working, and it was just me and Brodie, just out in the -10 degrees, just walking about. I then got a job in March, right before lockdown, which was pretty crazy. Wow. So I think I was in the office for like 1 week, and then we were back home. But looking back, that was quite nice to have that kind of quality time with him. Yeah. Only because I'm now comparing it to the maternity leave that I had with my daughter, which to be fair was actually amazing. I managed to get like 15 months maternity leave over here. Wow. So but yeah, it was just kind of just like tiny like different things. Like Mirren's my daughter, very Scottish name. She's named after the patron saint of Paisley, which is where we lived. But just even small things like she started home daycare and she was still doing 2 naps, and she was kind of forced into dropping a nap. And I was then comparing it back to Brodie, and because I was at home with Brodie when we first moved here, like I didn't force him to drop a nap, and just silly little things like that. But yeah, it's been lovely. Like I think another main reason for us wanting to move here was the kind of just the lifestyle. Yeah, I talk about the Scottish weather a lot, and like it's always raining, and in fact it's raining here today. I don't know about you, but it's like a typical Glasgow day here. But that doesn't happen an awful lot, whereas it happens an awful lot in Glasgow, particularly the rest of Scotland. So it's just nice to like things like taking Brodie to a pool, an outdoor pool. Like I've got family here, they've got a pool, like we see friends, they've got pools, like so, and splash pads, and that's just something that he would never have experienced if we stayed in Scotland. Just that kind of outdoor life. And then even just on the flip side as well, like in winter, it's not just like we then kind of like hibernate for winter. We like to kind of just get, as long as you're dressed well, we like to get out and go for walks and get out in the snow, and we're just kind of enjoy that. Whereas I just think when it's raining, it's just like you don't want to go out in the rain, like as long as it's dry. There's that whole element of it, and I do think about that a lot. Like what would Brodie be doing right now if we were in Glasgow? What would, like, kind of the differences? Like now that he's 5, he's getting him to, he plays hockey. And he plays the hockey, and he plays, I'll say soccer, I'll say the correct Canadian words, not football but soccer and stuff like that in the summer. So I know, I kind of feel I remember when we first came here, I was like, I will not say the Americanized word. I'm sorry, I'm still going to say bin, I'm still going to say pavement, I'm not. But now that when you've got kids who, like Brodie's like a full-on Canadian, like he's got a Canadian accent, I need to be able to say the words for him to understand me. It's just it's a funny one, whereas I'm still like trying to keep to my roots though, but I'm like, just put that in the trash, Brodie. So I kind of interchange the words, to be honest. I feel like he's learning like the Scottish words as well, so hopefully he'll always kind of just know. But that was the kind of main thing, was just the kind of whole the outdoor living kind of element, I guess. And I think I never want to be like negative about the UK or Scotland or Glasgow, because I love it. Like I really miss it. Like I'll be frank, like I'm still quite homesick. Me too. I miss it, and I just and probably a part of it is because I've not been back since we moved. Maybe I just need to get that out my system, I don't know. But I kind of, there's certain things where in Glasgow particularly, there's talking about football, there's a kind of big Celtic versus Rangers thing in Glasgow, and it's obviously, I don't know if you know anything about it, but it's it's also kind of linked to like religion, and it's just it's not a very nice side of the city. It's just in a kind of very nice part. Whereas here, like you can go to like a Blue Jays game, and it's like everybody sits together, and it's just much more family orientated. And so there's kind of like little things like that as well, where and then when you see kind of pictures of back home at old firm games, which is when Celtic play Rangers, and it's just madness. It's just utter chaos. So
I definitely understand that, because I went back home. So a few things you said, like I definitely missed home a lot more before I went back. And I went back home in the March of this year. So I was able to get that out of my system, but I do still miss it a lot, especially now around Christmas time, because I don't know about you, but Christmas in the UK is just beautiful. I know that it's nice here in terms of just how things look, how things feel, but I just feel like there's so many activities and things like that that go on in the UK. And maybe that just could be because of the community I had back in the UK, where I'm still building that here. So I've always been of the mindset that when I have kids, I want them to still be very British, even though they are Canadian, or they will be Canadian. I still want them to, like, you know, have my accent, which I know is silly. It's not going to happen, but
no, it's not.
You want them to still have a bit of, like, you know, where you come from. And I just kind of like want to pivot into that. So how do you balance that? How do you kind of like, you know, share about Scotland or where they're from, you know, with them still, but still obviously allowing them to experience Canada as it is?
My daughter's too young to kind of understand all that, but with Brody, like I talk about Scotland non-stop, to be honest with you. I talk about it all the time. So he knows, like him, like Brody and my husband were born in the same hospital. So we tell him all this, and we talk about it a lot. He's had visitors over. He's had his grandparents over visiting, like between last year and this year as well. So he's kind of built, he has that relationship with them as well, because he actually had his cousin over too this year. So so it's just kind of keeping in touch with like FaceTime as well, and and speaking to the grandparents more so for Brody as well. Like obviously we would love to go back, but it's just when you start costing it all up, there's just it's an awful lot of money to go back, especially now when you're paying for four seats. So I think Mirren would only still be free until June, and I can't see that happening. But so the next time we go back, it's going to cost us money. It's going to cost us a lot of money, but it's something that I definitely want to do. And maybe it is better that it's maybe when they're a little bit older and they'll remember it more. It's just technology nowadays is like a wonderful thing. Like I can remember like my mum talking about when my great aunt and my great uncle moved over here, and like, having to wait until Sunday to make a phone call to them, and it's just not the same. Like we've got WhatsApp and FaceTime, and I can message my friends at anytime, and mostly when you're not, you have to still think about the time difference, to be fair. There's a lot of the time being like a mum, and you've got your working day, and then it's the chaos between like 4 and 8 p.m. trying to get them fed and get them bath and get them to bed, and then by the time I sit down, I'm like, okay, I'd want to speak to my friends, and then I'm like, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning there.
I have that too. It got to a point where for me, I was like having to do phone calls on my drive home from work when I wasn't working from home. So I would be like in the car, you know, driving home from work, and they're just about to like get into bed, and that's just the time that you can chat. It's really, really hard. I think that's some of the hardest things, but I think also just like appreciating the fact that, you know, it allows you to connect with your family and your community a bit more, because I feel like, you know, when you're at home, you see your friends maybe at a birthday party, or maybe you're going to, you know, the grocery store, and you're like, you see them on the high street, but you don't connect as much as when you're away, because when you're away from them, you have to be intentional about phone calls, about FaceTimes and things like that. And I think that's helped me kind of grow closer with a lot of my friends, because we have to actually be like, okay, Sunday, we're doing this. We're going to sit down and actually like have a call. So that's been so important. The big thing for mothers who are, you know, moving, or mothers who have moved and just wanting to know, like, what is it like to have mat leave in Canada versus the UK? Because you've experienced both, right? So what was that like?
And I can actually compare like apples with these two,
Mm-hmm.
because I was actually when I was pregnant with Brody,
Mm-hmm.
I was like 10 weeks pregnant and I was made redundant.
Oh,
So
no.
yeah, I had to quickly, I had like really bad sickness and everything, had to like just
Oh,
get another job really quickly.
yeah,
But because I was in my new job,
yeah.
I didn't have enough time to qualify for their maternity leave before actually going on maternity leave.
Oh
I
no.
only had like the government maternity leave in the UK,
Okay. Yeah.
and because the maternity leave in Canada is
Mm-hmm.
it is government, it's mainly
Mm-hmm.
government. I was literally, I can really compare like the government
Yes.
maternity pay
Sure. Yeah.
versus the government maternity pay,
Yeah.
and it's better here. It's better in Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I worked in the NHS, so I don't know whether all I heard was, if you work in the NHS, or even if you work anywhere in England, to be honest, that, maternity leave is really good. And I know that that's one of the things that lots of English people or Scottish people, so I guess you people from the UK are generally worried about, right? Because we hear that North America, they have bad vacation days, they have poor maternity leave. So it's actually good to hear. It's comforting to hear. So what's the main differences or what makes it better?
So yeah, so if I'd not been made redundant and I was still
Mhm.
in my old job and I qualified for maternity pay,
Yeah.
I might have got like a little bit of added extra on, like added money to that on top of the
Okay.
government pay. They would have subsidised me. If you work for the NHS, you probably would have got a much better subsidy than me. I don't think
Yeah.
my company was particularly great on their
Hmm.
maternity pay anyway. So it
Hmm.
really all depends where you work
Yeah.
and what that company offers as a
Yeah.
kind of add-on.
Yeah.
And that's the same here, to be fair.
Hmm.
But the standard government maternity leave here is better. It's basically you can either go off for 12 months or you can go off for 18 months.
Yeah.
And you are paid for 12 months, you're paid, I'm sure it's 55% of your salary, that's
Hmm.
capped.
Hmm.
And then for 18 months, it's 33% of your salary.
Oh,
So it's the
okay.
same amount, but it's like stretched depending on whether
Yeah.
you take the 12 or the 18.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, so compared to Brody's maternity leave, I think I had to go back when Brody was like 11 months. He hadn't even turned one.
Oh, okay.
Just because I couldn't afford it. There was like a certain
Yeah.
amount of weeks that were given to me, and that was it. So
Yeah.
it wasn't even 12 months. They did it by weeks, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was off with Mirren, I had the choice, okay, what am I going to do, 12 months or 18 months? And a lot of people, again, financially, maybe if their subsidy isn't great, they can't do the 18 months. It's a long time to be off and not get
Yes.
paid like your full salary, getting paid like
Yeah.
33% of your salary. So it all depends on your situation, of course, like what
Yeah.
you can afford to do.
Yeah.
But even just knowing that I was going to get 12 full months with her
Yeah.
was really nice. And in fact, because she was born in June,
Mm.
I finished in June, and then I would have been going back in June, and I really didn't want to go back to work in June in Canada in the middle of summer where it's beautiful. And also Brody, that would have been Brody's first year of in between school years because he started
Yeah.
JK.
Mm.
So I wanted to be able to spend the summer with them both, probably the one and only summer that I would ever spend with my two children.
Yeah.
So the company that I work for now, we worked out like a little deal for them to kind of like pay me for a couple of months, so that I could extend it to September when Brody went back into SK and then would start daycare, and then I
Oh,
went back to work, which was amazing.
yeah. Yeah.
It was just so lovely to be able to do that and
Yeah.
just do fun things with them every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my experience comparing my maternity leaves it's a bit of a vast difference, but overall I would say yeah, Canadian maternity leave is better.
I would say like again for me, I haven't experienced like maternity leave or anything like that, but I know things like money as well. And when it comes to spending money here, I don't know whether it's the taxes, but I find that when I started working here, I was able to like actually save more of my income. Whereas in the UK, it was so hard. Like it was almost like I was going from paycheck to paycheck for many months, because there's so many different bills and apparently the taxes in the UK are higher than Canada. I haven't really looked into that like fully, but I think that when it comes to money and income and, you know, like you said, things like mat leave, it is better. The only thing I would say about Canada, in my opinion, is just the vacation. I think it depends on where you work, but I've heard that generally across the board, the vacation is it's a bit weaker than, you know, the UK system, because in the UK we get like what, like 4 weeks on average, most people.
Yeah, I think because it was always like European led, it was like part of the European
Yeah,
kind of law, wasn't it? That it was I can't remember working at a place where I didn't get minimum 6 weeks vacation in Scotland.
6 weeks? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. That's it. Yeah. I mean, for me, and I've worked both for like pharmacy companies that are private and also NHS, and it's always been at least 4 weeks, like at least 4. And then that's excluding all the bank holidays that we get as well. So that's quite a lot. Whereas here, I heard that standard is like 2 weeks for most companies. But I think it depends where you work, because where I work now is 4 weeks. But again, it's just dependent on your contract and who you work for and stuff. So I guess there's like pros for North America versus the UK. It's Christmas. Christmas, like I said, is just amazing. There's so many things about Christmas that are so important to me. I think growing up, I had quite a negative experience around Christmas just because of like family things going on. And it always seemed to go on around that time. So, you know, after that period kind of passed, Christmas just became a very like warm and just like family time for me. You'd go out with friends. Me and my best friends would have like our end of year dinners. You know, people would be having Boxing Day parties. And normally, I mean, if you're in the UK, you'd have like football on Boxing Day. Everyone would be like, you know, around the TV watching the Premier League football and things like that, or soccer, things like that, just to bring everyone together. And I feel like in Canada, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I feel like it's not the same. It doesn't feel the same. Even little things like, you know, you see the M&S advert where they're like, this is not just M&S. This is not just food. This is M&S food. And you see like all the M&S cookies come out. You see so many, it just feels warm. And I just feel like in my time so far, I haven't felt that. So what's your experience as a mother, having a family and experiencing Christmas outside of the UK?
So funny that you mentioned M&S, because I was going to say that I miss the UK high street all year round, but specifically at Christmas. Yeah, just like following Next on Instagram, and you're seeing like their Christmas, all the Christmas range, and you're just like, I'm like, I just would kill to just go into a Next and just like wander about. And I think that's, from what, to your point, I think it's what you're used to, like, and I think specifically with Christmas, it's a time where a lot of traditions are made, and so we're used to these specific traditions that we've had in the UK. And I guess it's about making your own traditions, which I do think becomes easier to do when you do have kids, because you're kind of, I grew up with like certain traditions, and I feel like I'm now like passing them on with my children, and just like little things like I went to the British shop last week because it's advent calendar time. So I go and get them advent calendars, because I'm like, there's no way, if he's eating chocolate every single day in December, he's eating British chocolate. It's not going to be eating this American horrible chocolate.
No offense, guys. It's just not. It's not it.
It's not good. It's not good. We get Elf on the Shelf out. Like, he comes out on the 1st of December as well. And so we're just starting to kind of create our own traditions. But I do, even like coming down to like the Christmas dinner here.
Yes.
They don't do roast potatoes.
Oh my God, do they do Yorkshire? I was literally just making my Christmas menu yesterday, and I was saying to my husband, we have to get Yorkshire puddings. But literally in the middle of the night, I was like, where am I going to get Yorkshire puddings from in Canada?
Do you know where they sell them? In Real Canadian and No Frills, but it's in the dessert freezer section. They sell them in the dessert bit. So it's beside like the chocolate eclairs, the frozen chocolate eclairs, but it's like mini Yorkshire puddings, because I buy them for Mirren.
I was just thinking of like, you know, adding like an actual English, you know, parsnip soup and all those things like into my Christmas menu. And I was kind of stressing because I was like, I don't know where I'm going to find all this stuff from.
What I really miss is pigs and blankets. I really
miss
pigs and blankets.
Pigs and a blanket. Oh, I haven't had that in ages. Oh,
like I'll go and I'll buy Paxo stuff from the British shops. I'm like, I can't have that stovetop stuff. I can't have it. I need Paxo. And I like bread
Honestly.
sauce, which isn't a thing here. So I get like the packet of bread sauce. I'm the only one in the family that likes bread sauce, but I still get
Yeah.
to and eat the whole
Yeah.
packet myself. Um,
I think you're right, just being able to create your own traditions. My husband always says, we have to now just like find a way to mix in these traditions, mix in the Canadian with a bit of, because there are things that I do love about the Canadian tradition. And I actually realized that a lot of some of the things that are British or UK are actually Canadian also, but in a different, they call it different things. For example, I never knew that Dauphinoise potatoes are scallop potatoes. They just call it scallop potatoes.
it's
Had
just
no
that, well, it's
idea.
like, I know, it's like a lot of things, it's just got a different name, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just even things like I think they call apple crumble apple crisp or something like that.
That's
Apparently they're
I've heard of apple crisp, and
yeah.
I'm very partial to apple crumble, so now I know I can buy an
Yeah, it's
apple
apple crisp.
crisp.
I had no idea because anytime I asked for apple crumble, they would direct me to an apple pie. And I'm like, that's not the same thing. But then I saw in, I think maybe Foodland or something, they had like apple, it was crumble and it said apple crisp. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm very particular about things like, like you, I'm always going to stay with, if I'm having apple crumble and custard, it's going to always be ambrosia. It has to be Devonshire ambrosia because that's just my thing. They do apple crisp or apple crumble and ice cream. I feel like UK people, we kind of do the custard better. It just works much better for
Yeah.
us. But I
Yeah.
think you're right, just creating and mixing those traditions and that's how I get through it. And I guess, as a mother, you sharing how you're trying to make sure even little things like advent calendars, making sure that it's a British chocolate and making sure your kids are aware of that. I think that's so important. Would you say there's anything that you regret about your move to Canada, especially around like, I guess, community, family, and having your own family in Canada?
No. I feel like we're pretty lucky because we've got family here, or I've got
Mm,
like cousins here. So I've
yeah.
got twin cousins here who are a few years older than me, and they're kind of like, that's our family. We go there for Christmas dinner, and like we kind of all come together. I think I would probably give you a different answer if I didn't have them.
Yeah.
And it was just us on Christmas Day, which it was
Yeah.
during lockdown. I made my first turkey in 2020. So I got a
Oh,
little taster of what it would be like without that kind of
yeah.
family element that I've got. And that was a number one reason why I wanted to move to Burlington. I was like, I'm not moving all the way across to Canada, and I'm not
Yeah.
living beside the family that I do have there. And I've got like little cousins who are like older than Brody, but they're in their
Oh,
teens and early 20s now, but they just like adore
yeah.
our kids. And so that gives me that kind of like family element.
Yeah.
So I don't really regret anything around that. Like obviously
Mhm.
it's, when I think about me like growing up, like I got to see I got to see both grandmothers. I'd never got to meet one grandfather, and one died shortly after I was born. So that's sometimes that is sad, like thinking about,
Mhm.
oh, they don't have that kind of same relationship
Mm.
with their grandparents. But they do get to kind of come over and visit, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get back there as well. So
Yeah.
but it's just, there's, when you make such a huge life-changing decision, there's, when you look at the pros and cons, like it's not always going to be this big long list of pros. Like there's always going to be
Something.
things
Yeah.
that yeah, that's not, but you just have to kind of weigh it all up. And
Mm.
ultimately I just wanted to give my kids the best life, and we
Yeah.
felt that it was going to be here. And also like Brexit was happening in the
Yeah.
UK, and there was a whole load of things that we were like, and I can't even really compare what UK post Brexit is like because I've not experienced it.
Mhm.
But I remember thinking like, this isn't the way that I
You.
want I want to be kind of living,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So but
Yeah.
then there's like, we're in a recession now and everything's so expensive, and
Yes.
it's just, yeah, the whole world's a
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
all over the place,
Crazy.
isn't it? But you just kind of have to make the most of where you are and what you've got. And
Like you said, it's not always going to be 100% perfect. And even if you were back in the UK, it wouldn't be 100% perfect. You just have to find the middle ground and find what works best for you. And like you said, I think for me, like I said, I didn't have kids, but I was thinking about the next generation. My parents moved from Nigeria to the UK to give me and my siblings a better life. And I feel like I was like doing this move coming to Canada so that I could give my children an even better life so they can see something different, and, you know, being able to also inspire them in the future. If they want to move somewhere else, experience something else, they can also do that because they know that they're, you know, they can be like, my parents have done this, so, you know, I'm able to do it too. So I think that's so, so important.
That's actually really lovely, actually, on from your side of the story, to think about it like that, like what your parents did for you, and then what you're ultimately have going to have done for your children. That's a really lovely way to look at it. Being able to experience different parts of the world and different cultures can only make you like a better, more well-rounded person. So, so yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Honestly, it's so inspiring when I meet other people from the UK who have done the same thing and done it with a whole family. Like, that's such a big move and a big jump. So I'm so glad that we connected. I'm so glad we're able to do this. Is there any kind of like final last words you would like to share to any mother or father who, you know, moving with kids and, you know, they're kind of contemplating, not sure what to do? What would you say to them?
With your gut. I think you can, that can really never let you down. Like, depending on whether it's now or in the years to come, like things are always going to change. I think things are going to fluctuate, and I think you just need to go with what your gut is telling you on the inside. Just and don't ever kind of let any kind of outside influences affect that, because there probably will be a lot.
Yes, there will be. I always say this when I was moving, lots of people told me, don't move, you're a single girl. What if you never meet a man? You'll be by yourself. I literally met my husband right before I moved to Canada whilst I was on holiday in Canada. So like, just do it. You can always go back home if there are any issues, and, you know, you don't feel like you're safe, or you don't feel like you found your community. Home will always be there. So
a lot of people don't want you to leave, like, and that shows that you're probably well loved. That a lot of people don't want you to go. It's a kind of selfish thing, but I always kind of think to myself, like, you'll never regret the things that you do. You'll only regret the things that you don't do. And if you go and it doesn't work out, you're right, you can come back. But also on the flip side, if your gut's telling you, actually, I don't think this is for me, then don't do it. But yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you for coming on. If people wanted to reach out to you, are you okay with them connecting with you on social media?
Yep, absolutely. I'm on Instagram at Ashley Lack.
I'll put all the details in the description. Thank you so much.